maintenance or in basic administrative functions and things like that.
Got it.
Yep.
That's interesting. And going back to your stickiness issue that you mentioned there. So, I get your point that, a product team might be using it a lot, but then let's say that person leaves and the new person comes in and doesn't use, the service. When they cancel a contract like that, do you think the reason they're doing that is just they're not using it at all? Or do you think they're potentially switching out, one vendor for another? I guess I'm trying to understand, what are different reasons that would cause someone to either switch providers or stop using it, full stop?
I don't know. I mean, for a little while, it looked like, so when I first got into the space, Mixpanel still had their founder. Sorry, was that me? Was that you, that noise?
No, that was me.
They still had their founder kind of very involved, and he was like a young founder, boy genius, and he was driving product, but he wasn't even driving product based on his own product analytics. He was driving product based on what he thought people needed. Because the first time he built Mixpanel, in the Steve Jobsian fashion, he gave people what they needed, not what they asked for. So he thought he was infallible, and he kept pushing in a certain direction, and that didn't work out so well. So they were starting to lose ground to Amplitude. And Amplitude strategy was, we're going to do everything Mixpanel did. We're going to totally mimic them, but then we're going to we're going to add some other stuff and make it less expensive and be more friendly to work with. And it actually worked out really well for them. And I didn't see so many people switching as people just kind of abandoning, it didn't really feel like people were like, oh, I'm going to put a whole new product analytics solution in to save, or to add this one feature. It was like they were just kind of abandoning the need for it. Now there were competes against them where we were losing for other reasons, but that's a whole different story.
Okay. So just make sure I understand, based on your experience of existing users of a product solutions product, a lot of them were just stop using it. Without getting into specific companies, obviously, was there a certain type of company where that was more often than others, or a specific industry? Just trying to understand if there's any commonalities between companies that did that.
I mean, I saw it with a major media company. I saw it with a major financial institution. I saw it with they were good with their tech companies. If they had an enterprise, software company that was using, they would keep growing and scaling with it because they knew those companies knew how to consume the data.
Got it. So just if they had more of a tech-oriented culture, they got it more than some of the older types of institutions. That makes sense. Great. And
because if you think about it, like a tech company, let's just say you're Microsoft and you're putting this into Microsoft. Let's just say you're Amazon, you're putting this into a piece of your shopping. That's something you're always going to have and you're always going to be working on. Whereas if you're a bank and you're only got an app, it's not your bread and butter. It's something you're going to do at a second point in time.
Right. Yeah, it's just more ingrained in the culture. That makes sense. Okay. Great. And then you mentioned sort of when Amplitude and Mixpanel, for example, were competing against each other is a different story. I want to get a bit more into sort of the procurement process and, when a company decides they want to use the vendors, how that goes. So I guess just to kick off that discussion, based on your experience, what do you think are the what do you think are the top 5 selection factors that enterprise customers consider, when comparing different providers?
Top 5 factors that companies consider.
Things like, price, service.
There's the cost. There's the cost. They consider the functionality. So one thing that's really becoming important is it's no longer just about being able to collect the data and show it on a chart. It's about collecting the data and using AI to drive action. And everyone says our AI-driven machine learning platform, everybody drops those words on top of their software. But let's be real, Like, what is